So hello everyone, Mono here, and welcome to my review of Kakegurui episode 2 review, and this is like, meh, to be honest. I'm just saying it right away, I'm saying it this, I'm just kind of fake, A lot of people love to do YouTube, right, on all the medias. They just love to always say, oh, this is so good, this is so fantastic. And true, surely, people are probably gonna, maybe someone even unsubscribe for this, or dislike, whatever, right? Because I always get dislikes when I say that this anime isn't that good, right? And this anime isn't really that good so far. It really isn't. It's not bringing in anything for me. Like first and foremost, for the best life as well, it doesn't give me any care for the world for the main character for a second, right? There's no tension for her, how much money she has, I think, right? And doesn't really matter, right? And but also like the other my three favorites logical sport slash so a lot of gambling animes, right? Kaguya, Kage, and One Out. They all give you this like philosophical scenery, right? They also give you this like, well, they actually teach you stuff, I think that's a huge thing. For example, you watch the first episode of Kaji, you see him being tricked by this guy going to the boat, right, to start the Yankee tournament. And before they go there, he just has like, oh, you can go, man. Kaji's gonna make a lot of money, Kaji, bro. And it's like, I don't know. And then he gets a phone call, or he fakes getting a phone call. It's like, oh, that guy took a seat. Oh, that means we'll have 3 seats left. Oh, that's great, And that's a typical system. For example, once I was in contact with this recruit agency and so on, and they do a lot of stuff for you, but you also have to pay them to like do some stuff for you, right? And I was like, nah, I don't, trust that. It's probably something fake, right? And so what I was doing. When I interviewed them, second interview with them, this detective company was right. Suddenly he got a phone call during the interview, and he was like, "Oh, I think this is very important." And he's like, "Oh yes, he got the offer. Oh, that's so great, And that's a typical thing, right? That you pretend that. So his coworker probably called him, right? And then suddenly he's like, "Oh yeah, oh did Mark get the offer? Oh, that's awesome." So I on the other side of the phone, listening to his phone call, right? Because obviously it's been and thinking, oh man, I should pay this guy because they get people hired, right? So one of the most basic strategies, right? And they do that in Kali, like the first few minutes of Kali. That means that that is something, honestly, you can watch Kali be like, okay, that's probably I should avoid in real life, right? So that, I think, they did really good in that. And same with One Hour, so right? They give you stuff that actually is usable in real life. And I watched this anime, there's zero skill in this game, right? This memory game. It has a memory skill, but I mean, there's nothing you can learn here as the viewer, and I really dislike that. There's nothing I can say when viewing this thing. I'd be like, huh, interesting. I mean, I figured out myself pretty much was watching it right. I was like, oh yes, she's probably cheating because it's her deck, right? I mean, so yes, you have one lesson to learn here: don't play with a girl if her father owns the company that makes the cards, which is kind of like, duh, like I was there like, yeah, this seems weird, right? And in my defense too, I am watching this, and then I watched this episode as like 1:30 in night, right? Like 2 or something now. So yeah, so I watched it like 1:30 in more early morning, right? So I'm not in my A game, so to speak, at my apex of gambling, right? And I feel that in a few minutes, like, God, it's probably cheating because it's her deck side. Yeah, it's super simple, and it's not teaching me anything about philosophy, gambling, tricks and sleeves. Those other animes, they really teach you like, this is how people trick people, this is how you lie. They go into those things and show you maybe not like this huge guide before it, but usually like if someone say this thing, they probably mean this thing, right? And it kind of gives that kind of input. Or people usually trick people with this thing, or they use this thing. For example, that's something I use a lot myself that I learned from these animes, or even other stuff in my life. For example, when I play table tennis at my old work, and some people that I kind of attended to sounds and so on. So, for example, if I'm gonna play like a serve, I might maybe do a sound effect with my legs or something. Or I can notice that they're looking away, then I can serve, and they will lose some concentration because that because they're not focusing on the ball, right? Or the most typical thing is that I speak a lot while I play with people in anything like Magic and tournaments. So I will speak to people, right? Talk to them about ordinary stuff, right? Or something that is obviously is a general trick to make them less focused on what's actually happening, right? This is a very classic thing, right? You look at them, you give them attention, look at back to you, and you still like playing, on the ground, right? It's a very easy cheat, right? If you want cheat and so on, right? That's the basic thing, pretty much. Like, get their attention to you instead, so you can cheat with your hands. Now, I'm not saying that I'm cheating when I play stable tables at work, but I can do that. I can say to someone, I can like, hey, what about, you read the mail I sent to you 3 hours ago? It's like, yeah, that thing that I do my serve. Well, they're like, yeah, what's the mail again? And they mix it. I can do that stuff, right? And, because it works. I guess most people, right? You can get their attention and so on. And, that's something that is, like, yeah, they have to learn to deal with it. It's not my fault that they work on them. Yeah, well, like, generally, right? And when you see this anime, there's nothing of that, right? So far, the main character is like ridiculously overpowered for that matter, and he has like superpowers in playing games, which is really boring. And she's not beating her opponents by tricking them in that sense, right? And now say tricking as cheating, but tricking them, like if you're talking to them, or also kind of hand wave, but it's what I mean, right? Like you're using your Jedi mind trick for playing it. That's interesting. That's a depth of it. And her opponents also aren't either doing that, so they don't have actually games either so far. I guess yes, she seems to go in now to the more like the tournament or the ranking of the student council now or something. In the coming episodes, it might be much better, but so far it's like she's beating these people that are super bad at it, just complete noobs, right? Like that shit was boring. And also, I don't get it, to be honest. I don't get it. Like if I was writing this anime or manga, post manga. There's no way in hell I would be like, oh, that's memory. That's a good game to have. I mean, honestly, horrible decision. I cannot see how it's a good decision. I mean, look at it. Like, Janken, it's a great game to have. It's very simple. You win with this thing, right? And it's very everyone has played it. It's universal. But you still have a lot of strategy when you have just a few cards to it and so on. It gives you can have a lot of depth suddenly. And it's interesting. It's actually interesting because you have probability of cards and so on, right? But memory is just like, okay, so you have 104 cards. If you turn one of them, it's 1 in 103 chance to get the card you want. So the first time you do it, if you're not cheating, the first time you flip 2 cards, the chance of getting another card is really, really, really low, right around 1 in 103. They get the next one. Not the same map, but you get the first one, next one, yeah. So and then it goes down, right? The more cards are removed, and you just have to memorize them, right? That's the whole game. So it's just about memory. It's super boring. It's a game kids play to learn to use memory, right? To learn to use your brain, right? And it doesn't really mean anything. Like if you're good at memory, who is not good at memory if you just focus, right? And obviously the cheating thing is what makes it interesting. But the cheat was boring. She was really blatant. It was boring. Oh, I have my own decks with me and they have markings on them. Oh, you don't say. I was like, she's probably using her fingernails. I mean, to be honest, I think the cheating was really bad. And I mean bad as, like bad cheating, right? Because I was like, yeah, she's focused on this nail thing. She likes to like her nails, right? So maybe she's like marking, maybe she's like doing marking on her stuff, right? Where she's playing or something. That could be interesting. If she has like different things, she has different fingernails, right? So interesting. She was like, oh yeah, I put on the 10s, I do this blue thing, and on the other this red thing, and it's like super thin, like it's like one little you can't barely see it, and it disappears after just a few seconds too, because because she has some kind of special like ink nail that disappears after a while, so you can't see the sheets afterwards. That would be interesting. So she's like, she has to have some skills and memory, like really good skills, but also can cheat on a few of them to not maybe remember, but when she's like shuffling it out, she could be like a 10, like giving those specific cards, right, her sign on them. Which means she knows 10 cards perfectly before the game starts, for example. That would be a good cheat to always win, but it's a random luck. If you both have perfect memory, knowing those 10 cards would give you the advantage, right? And obviously you wouldn't put like blue and 2 10s. You put like a blue and 1 10, and so 10 different cards. So you see, a 10, blue 10, right? And then it's like a 5, red 5. That's how you do it, right? So you wouldn't have like red on 2 5s. You have the one of them, and you would never, of course, go for the marked ones because you know what the marked ones are. So you know that, okay, these 10 cards are marked, so you never pick them first, right? You pick the other cards, and then you see if it matches, right? You would do that thing, and then you can do your combos and so on. So you keep doing it. For example, that would be a cheat I would think is, but somewhat interesting. Not a very interesting either, but that at least would be a better cheat, because that would mean you could play with Animal's deck. You can go and play it on other plays, right? and play blackjack or something. Whatever horrible, I guess it could be. But you can play another game of cards where you mix around the cards yourself, and or if you have to give people cards and so on, and you can be like, you can mark your cards you're giving away, so you remember if they have the cards heft in your hand, and so on, right? So you can use that to event. For example, if you have a card game, you have 5 cards each on each player, right? And you have to sort of round cards, turn turns, you trade cards and so on. You will mark your hand in the beginning, then you give away your cards, and you be like, okay, she has my 3 now, and then she trades, okay, she got my 3 now, so you know what they are and so on, right? So that, for example, level use. How would that be usable with your? But I mean, I guess your sheet deck would be usable. But the problem is if you go in there and they have their own cards, your shit is horrible, right? That's her backstory so stupid too, because she's a character that apparently climbed very easily, and she has her like shit toss, I guess. But they also assume that she was always playing with her cards, and that is stupid. Like I would be right away like, no, I don't want to play with your cards, play with my cards instead, right? It's hard. It feels like most of those people will be like, I'm gonna play with your cards. And she would have a hard time climbing because her skill is only in cheating with her own decks, right? And that's a horrible limited skill. And just, whatever, like her own dice or something. Just materially good, right? It's horrible. So I think that was really boring too. I think it was a very boring cheat. I think her as a character was really boring, or like useless, right? And again, this doesn't teach you anything about gambling in real life or something similar. It's pretty much like, don't play with other people's stacked decks. That's the most obvious thing ever. If someone's like, let's roll a dice here. This is my die. It's like, and if I only get a 6, you have to do this with me. But I don't know, man. That's your die you picked from your pocket. It's like, nah, I don't think so. So that's kind of like that's the only lesson here. Don't play with, loaded die, pretty much, right? That they supplemented. So I'm not a big fan of anime, to be honest. So people say, oh, but this anime is awesome. It's like, really? The only thing the anime has so far is like really freaking faces. A main character which so far has 0 backstory and 0 motivation, she's crazy. And everyone else was kind of crazy. But she's not crazy in a good way. Like, go and... If you like this anime, you haven't watched Kadi. Go and watch Kadi instead. I'm sure Kadi's going to be better than this Kadi level. You see, Kadi's despair, Kadi's craziness, that's something which feels real. Like, Kadi to me is one of the worst animes I watch, most tragic animes. Like, when people die in Kadi, it's like, this death is horrible. When someone gets shot in the face by a thunderbolt, I'm like, whatever. Right? This is kind of like whatever. Like, Kadi is more real. Kadi's like, it feels like they're actually real people because they're so sad. Even if we don't have a story on them, it just feels more like realistic somewhat, right? But yeah, it's like it just completely misses that so far. The whole like a main character you care about for begin with, but also then there's no like philosophy around it, and the opponents so far are bad what they're doing. They aren't even good at it. The shit's are bad. Like the planning isn't that good, right? And they don't have any good like sociological skills, right? They use like crazy. That's like the problem here so far. But hopefully those other girls. So I don't give up enemy yet, but hopefully it's other girls. I mean, I think it started really slow, but it seems to be okay. Now she's gonna enter and fight this like the top 10 council members. So much shit, right? And that might be really good because they might have really good different personalities, really good skills and so on, right? That might be really interesting because what likely I think most is that she's facing people that have, they're just crazy. They're like, they're just crazy, right? They just act like really weird crazy stuff. And that is like, there's no way in hell those people actually would win another gambling, right? Because it would be like, oh, so I'm gonna play this. You're crazy. I'll be like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna pick this thing here now. And they'll be like, oh yeah, like that would never work. They would just lose so many board games because it would be completely insane, right? And they would lose their focus on the game just from strategy wise, but also of course you can cheat much easier. So they're like going around like, oh look at my nail, and you would be like, yeah, okay, I'm just gonna pick a few cards here, yeah, it's like there's a perfect time for me to cheat, right? It's kind of like, really, you're distracting yourself from the actual thing we're doing. I'm just gonna cheat like crazy, pretty much, right? If you play with these people, right? You know they're cheating, so you might as well cheat yourself, right? That's the mentality you should have when you play these kind of crazy people, right? And it would be easy to get cheating because they are pretty much, right? I was saying also that, but they can't go into that, man. I guess it's anime feel to it, but it's a gambling thing. It makes no sense, and also, she has enormous gamblers, like the gambler, addictiveness. I want to say I won again. Yeah, this kind of crazy. But the other characters aren't really showing any of classic gambler things. They're just like greedy. So I think they all feel very shallow too. They don't have this like, oh, I don't play to win, I play to injure people. So far, they both are two. But you have only been two opponents, but so far they're really boring. They don't have that kind of. I mean, she had the nail thing, but I still felt like you still didn't feel. I don't think you needed nail thing good enough. Probably that felt like a cuddy thing, but they didn't do it good enough. I think something like that. Yeah, they had the nail thing, but I didn't really feel for it that much. I suppose it wasn't bad. Nail thing was probably the best part of the episode, but it felt like I think that I got irritated on it because she didn't use her nails when she was playing. It was like a conceptual thing. I said, oh, I'm a nail woman. I have this nail that takes from all the ladies, and I'm fucking getting the bleed and so on. I'm like, I have this master, this nail skills. And she didn't use the nail skills actually playing the game, I think. I think that was weird, yeah. That's probably why I didn't like it. Because it was like, she had a concept, and then didn't actually combine with her playing style. You know, you want someone to be like, oh, I'm addicted to this thing, and I play like this. You know, you want that thing to be a synergy somewhat, right? Preferably. I think that's a big reason why I was kind of like, it started out good, but then it kind of went down a bit. And also, of course, the main character being crazy, it's kind of cool, but it also means that the opponents look less crazy, and then they are like, I love nails. She's like, I also love nails, but more than you. It's kind of like, really? It makes me like, okay, I like the main character is pretty cool in that sense, but it makes the opponent be so meek. They're like, okay, she's actually less crazy than her. You know, I guess you're following an evil person, but I don't know. I have a hard time for this anime, honestly. I mean, I kind of like it. I always say we probably watch it every week, but like, you know, I'll probably watch it, right? Because it's okay, but it feels like I remember I expect so much more. I don't know. It's just weird to me that they also have this. I think just the memory thing was so off-putting at the mainly. It's the most boring game ever, and it didn't make it fun either. Like, the sheet was so boring, blatant sheet. Oh, I marked the cards. So it's like, yeah, you play memory, so you mark cards. Good job. It's like the most boring shit you could have, right? There's no like, oh, I memorized the stack order perfectly, or I sort them out perfectly, so I remember this thing. Or I delude you while I actually take card, or I cheat during this thing, I can sit through the table. It's like, no, the most blatant shit ever. I have marked my own deck, you know? It's like a 5-year-old playstyle. I have my deck, and I marked every one of them with like invincible link, because sometimes. Right? It's just so boring. Like I feel that memory is a horrible idea. There was a worst part. The whole memory itself is a bad idea to have as an episode, right? I think so, really think so. And it didn't make it work either. I was like, prove me wrong, anime. It did not prove me wrong. They did not make it work out at all. It was just like, yeah, okay, the most obvious blatant shit you could have with memory. Just mark them. Boring. I think that's the main issue. The memory, right? So hopefully, it's a huge thing here. They have to have more interesting games. I like that they went into the game early in the episode. So chit chat into the game. Games are very important, but then I was memory, and I was like, maybe they should just keep playing stuff. Anyway, I'll see you guys next week, and have a great day.